This video is just going to go over some extra ways that you can format your tables on Google Docs. Tables are just a nice way to clearly group and organize and present information that you teach, as well as assignments that you create for your students to complete. Almost every single document I create incorporates a table in one way or another. So with this, we are just going to model off of this sample table that's in my sample hyperdocs. And this one, as you can see, has on the outside different tasks, and I think these are all linked. It's a pretty cool hyperdoc. Different tasks for the students to do, and in the middle there's like a big question, submit your Google Doc here. We're just really looking at the shape to model, and I noticed that it is 4 across and 4 tall. So over here, we'll go ahead and insert a table that is 4 by 4. And then the next thing that I want to do is merge those middle cells so it can be one big one like this one is here. So I'm actually just going to drag and select the cells that I want to merge, right click, merge cells, and that's where that chain of life is. Okay. And then something else we can do to just get our cells a little bigger, like this one is just over on the left-hand side here. I'm going to make them a little bigger, but I'm not going to stress too much about getting them all the same size. As you can see, those are all a little off, and I did that intentionally to show you a great tool that you can use that is distributing your cells. So if you select what you want to be the same, right-click, and make sure you learn the difference between rows and columns, but we want to distribute these rows. And there we go. Now they are all the same size. And that trick can come in handy if you are wanting to create a table that has some cells bigger than others, just based on whatever is supposed to go in them. So for example, let's say you have this table here for your class, and in the first column, you want them to put a date, in the second one, their name, and then the third one, an answer to a question you've asked them, and the fourth one, a different answer. Well, we know that they probably don't need that much space for the date, so you could shrink that down. Your name, they don't need as much space for, but you want to give them more space for their answers so that your document doesn't get as long. But now that I've shrunk those first two down, this answer 1 is really large compared to this answer 2. So same thing that we just did, we're going to highlight those two, right click, and we'll distribute those columns. And now those are bigger than the other two, but equal to each other. So just a good trick to know is the distribute. So back to this table here. The next trick we're going to look at is the border and adjusting the width and the styles. I can't remember if your earlier video talked about this, but we will do it anyway, just in case. So even though I've merged this middle one, it's still going to grab all these borders individually. And you can see that I'm selecting more than one at a time. I'm holding Shift to do that. You can also hold down Control and it'll let you grab more than one at a time. So with that, you get some options. You can change your border color if you want to give it a color. You can change the width if you want it to be a little heavier, and you could change the style if you want it to be dotted and stand out a little bit more. So that could be something we do to make that middle chain of life question to stand out. And while borders can be pretty fun, sometimes what can be just as effective is actually not using borders when you create tables. And this is probably more commonly how I use tables, more just as columns on my page. So here is a list of math courses that a school offers, and it takes up a lot of space, right? It is very tall, and what we can do is actually insert a table. There's 16 courses on that list, so I might do a 4x1 table. because there's 16, I'll go 4 at a time. 4 there. And that right there is already better. It takes up less space. It's not as long of a list. But what I might do is take off those borders and then maybe even to add some bullet points. This makes it a little bit more readable sometimes to have columns, take off those borders, sometimes add bullet points if it's a list. And the final fun thing I want to look at with borders and table creating is that was removing all of the borders. This was changing the style. Now we're going to talk about removing some and leaving others. And in this case, I'm going to create a 4x4. And I want to create some stairs. So I want this to be a step-by-step activity for my students, and I want the table to visually reflect that. So I'm going to use that trick of grabbing different borders, and I'm going to hold Shift to select all of these. I think that's right. Go to 0, and now those are gone. And this is going to be step 1, and I'll type out their assignment there. Now I'm going to come to the next one, delete that. Step 2. Maybe I'll merge those. Let me see what I'm doing here. Delete that one. Step 3. Merge them. Merge those. Step. Yeah. You can put colors to separate those. Lots of fun things that you can do with tables.